Hi, and welcome to the first month of a welcome, if you will, an introduction to some folks from COCA. COCA is a new story series. Actually, this story series is titled Your Bridge to Addiction Resources, and it's brought to you by COCA, which is the Council on Chemical Abuse. My name is Jo Painter, and you saw the premiere edition, or you heard it perhaps in the podcast, but I wanted to meet George Vogel. Hi, George.
Hi.
You're the executive director, right?
I am. Yeah.
And I've known you for quite some time over the years. We've talked. Was there a life before COCA, or have you done this for most of your career?
Well, there was a life before COCA, but having said that, I've done this for most of my, as defined as a career. I came in through the back door, so to speak, of Council on Chemical Abuse. I initially started out as working with the state employment office for all the right reasons. My dad went through the Depression, and he said, civil service is where you really want to wind up.
He didn't want you to have those lunch
civil
tickets.
service. I wound up there, and I was hired by the state as an employment counselor. And because of my interest in criminal justice, they assigned me to work with people on probation and parole and in prison. And so I did, and so I worked there for 4 years. I think it was from 70 to 74. And it was interesting because what I found was that when I interviewed the people, their employment history was spotty, very, very spotty. These are people that could not hold a job. So that was a commonality of the people I was working with in the criminal justice system. But the other piece that was it was so obvious it would be hard to deny it, is that for just about every person, not everyone exclusively, but just about every person had some history of drug and alcohol addiction in their background.
That was in the prison system?
That was in the prison system, yeah. Whether it was at the prison that I'd visit to get the information to try to find them a job out in the community. And if I did find them a job, they basically would come back 2 weeks later and say, I'm going to need another job, and I'll say, well, I missed a couple days' work, and well, what happened there? Well, I was hungover. One guy said to me, he said, actually, I was doing great, but they just didn't like the idea that I came in with alcohol in my breath. And I said, why were you surprised about that? And he said, well, I just, like every morning, it's good for me every morning to drink a tumbler of wine, and it helps me focus on the day. And I thought, it's like, bam, and I'm thinking something here isn't right. But it was the repetition of the instances of not being able to work, the repetition of getting re-involved and involved with the criminal justice system, and the continued statements that surround the person's use of drugs or alcohol. And so I got very interested in working specifically with that population, and there came a point in time that the prison decided that they were going to play a major role and set up a drug and alcohol treatment program inside the prison, and they did.
Was that unique?
It was the first one in Pennsylvania. In a county prison, it was the first time that a drug and alcohol program had been set up in a county prison. And credit goes out to the warden at that time, George Wagner.
I remember him.
Yeah, he was around for a long time, almost as long as I was. And we started a program up there, and there's no hiding the name. It was called the Drug and Alcohol Treatment Program.
It's pretty clear.
Yeah. Okay. So we would interview everybody that came into the prison, and I would interview them with regard to.
But you're still a state employee now, right?
I was with the state for 4 years. I left there. I took this new position it created to start this program.
Gotcha.
And I was there for another 4 years at the prison. And so one of the things that I did was I started doing interviews on everybody that came into the prison. And my interest was not so much who you married to, how many children do you have. My interest was what brought you here. And once I heard the repetition of drug and alcohol, how long was your history using that? So it became obvious that if we were going to make a difference in people cycling through the criminal justice system, the one point that we had to look at and address was looking at how much addiction played a role in them coming back again and again and again. And so that's what we set up. We set up the first, like I said, the first drug and alcohol treatment program in a county prison in Pennsylvania. And it was I don't know to what degree it was successful or not, but I know there were some people that went to group therapy, group counseling inside there. Some people, we had AA meetings and NA meetings running inside the prison, and it was good. It was good.
So in that experience, when you set up the program and you were trying to determine how many people, and you're noticing the repetition, and when you put together a matrix, what was the percentage you would say? With that, I mean, I'm sure you can't quote it, but like, was it over 75%, over 90% of these?
Well,
there was common.
Let's put on the table right now that it was not done by scientific measures of
fair.
Reliability and validity and all that other stuff. But what I came up with was between 68 and 75%. 68 and 75% of the people there were there because they were high or intoxicated at the time the crime was committed.
That's significant.
It's significant, yeah. It's more than half, and so to me it made sense. If we can intervene on this part of the person's life, we can do a lot as far as him or her coming back into the prison again.
All these years later, I mean, you said you're not sure about the impact of setting up AA meetings or NA meetings or anything like that in terms of recidivism, right? But all these years later, has it made a difference?
Oh, it has. I mean, there's no continuous study that was done on it, but I know it's made a difference in a lot of people's lives, because I see people come up to me in the street and go, yeah, George, I don't know if you remember me or not, you know.
Do you?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. And unfortunately, there's also the other side of the story, that there are people that I'll never see again because of their overdose or their continued addiction, that they died from their addiction. And that's, to me, that's the sad part of the story, because addiction is the most treatable disease that there is.
It is?
It is. It is. Because
wait a minute, can you say that again?
It's the most treatable disease that there is, meaning that once treatment occurs and takes hold, so to speak, and recovery continues, the restoration of body parts that were damaged by the use of alcohol or drugs can heal.
It reverses?
Yeah, it can.
Wow.
And it's...
That's a message of hope, pretty strong hope.
It's yeah. And the thing that we talk about in the office, and as well as all of our contracted providers, is that treatment and recovery do work. They work. They don't work in every instance, but long term they'll work. And what we need to do is to get the person off the chemical or get them onto some other type of medication, get them in a life of looking at recovery as part of the option that they want to choose to do. And again, when people come up to me and talk about that, you know, how we first came in contact, in the same breath, they'll show me pictures of their grandkids that they never thought they'd have, of a marriage that was mended.
It's got to be fulfilling.
Oh, it is. It's very fulfilling. It's very touching.
So your whole career, while it didn't start in addiction services or recovery services, is about helping people people get back on their feet. So somewhere along the line, and it sounds like from that common thread or the ubiquity of addictions that you came across, that you wanted to focus in that area. How would you say this affiliation with COCA, from when you started it and all these years and your history prior, has changed or impacted your life?
That's a good question. It's given me an appreciation of I remember when President Reagan was in and Nancy Reagan was there and said that the key to prevention is just say no. And
that's right. That's right.
And I thought, well, absolutely, they just need to say no to this. And if people can say no to the initiation of drug use, then if people that are involved in it, in drug and alcohol use or addiction, then they can say yes to treatment and they can say yes to recovery. But it's not that simple. It's just not that simple. People that go to treatment sometimes relapse. Sometimes they get it on the first time. Sometimes it takes 10 times of going through and trying to test your own style of what works for you. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop for a week. I'll show my wife that I can stop. She says I can't stop. I can stop for a week. And then at the end of the week, his reward for stopping for a week is going out and getting drunk. or getting high.
I did it, right?
I did it. Yeah, well, I did it. I said that's what I was going to do, so get off my back and all that other stuff. But the reward for me is just the fulfillment of seeing people that have smiles on their face, that are appreciative of what has happened to them in the name of treatment and recovery, of restoring their life, of getting their life back as they would like it to have been, and not a life of darkness and gloom and repeated criminal activity, visits to the prison, being known for other reasons than I'm a really good person. Yeah.
Right.
I got a criminal record, it's this long, and I mean, there's a group of guys that are going to go say, yeah, wow, that's great. But the average person, and those people that have meaning to that person, that are close to that person, are not going to say that. They're going to say that we liked you when you weren't drinking, when you weren't drugging.
Right.
You were a much better dad. You were a much better mother at that point. And so those are the kind of stories of sorts that float back to you, that give you energy to continue in my career.
That's pretty impactful.
Oh, it is.
And so that you get to see, it's not necessarily instant gratification because it sounds like it takes time, but the visual personification of success and gratification. And that's powerful. I'm looking forward to this series. George, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Great, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Check back every week for a new story with your Bridge to Addiction resources. You can call 610-376-8669 or visit online at cocaberks.org. COCABERKS.org. Be sure to like and follow the Council on Chemical Abuse on Facebook and Twitter.